How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. This is the way that we always love to start. We love to hear from you. So do me a couple of big favors. Jump inside the chat. Let us know where you're joining us from, what you're excited about this week. Also, do me another big favor. Preemptively like this and share it. It's going to tell Facebook and YouTube, as well as other coaches who find this video, that it's worth their time. And listen, you can take your like back. If I do not fulfill what I said that I was going to do, then you can absolutely come back and take your like back. But please preemptively do that. Again, it's important to us to always serve our coaches really well. We have a forward mission statement at Life Coach Training Institute. It is proficient coaches, thriving practices. Everything that we do is unto that end. And and tonight we're actually finishing up a series that is called Coaching Through the Fog. And we're finishing it up tonight. We're talking about our last type of fog, but you can always look back at some of the previous weeks and you can find out what you missed if you did not show up before. So let us know that you're here. Jump inside the chat really quick. Say hello. I'm about 30 seconds ahead of you. So by the time it gets to me over here, it takes just a moment. So jump in there. Let us know that you are here. Tell us where you are joining us from. We would really appreciate that. And some big stuff coming up this weekend. I'll talk about it in a little bit later. But boot camp weekend is actually this weekend. It's your next chance, the last chance to really of summer to knock out your certification training in a single weekend. We'll go Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. It allows you in an accelerated format. I know some of you kind of procrastinated. Sometimes the self-paced stuff doesn't really work in your favor, and you know you can't trust yourself to do a self-paced course. But this weekend, we'll go Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. There's live Q&As at the end of each one of those sessions, and it allows you to ask your questions. Also, to see coaching demonstrated, because we'll have coaching demos over the course of the weekend, and you still get access to live Tuesday night coach training as an ongoing option for continuing education, and also just to plug in. Cost of that's only $295. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Let me say hello to a few people who are saying hello to me. Frank's joining us from Seaverville, Tennessee. Happy to be in the Master Christian Life Coach Training. Cool. Lois joining us from Battle Creek, Michigan. Ganesh from Chicago, and I believe that's Dan from Indiana. If you guys would jump inside of the chat widget, let us know that you are here. Tell us where you're joining us from and what you are excited about. And I'm not going to delay anymore. I'll put that little thing up just in case anyone comes in. So before we start, one of the things that we always do is that we provide the slides for you. They're beautiful. And all of the coaching questions, all the tools that we go after, and we give you during this time, it's a lot easier than having to write it all down. Just text the word slides to 833-258-7547. Just the word slides. Don't put PowerPoint. Don't put it. Just put the word slides in 833-258-7547, and we will send you a link to where you can download the slides. And I'll give you guys about 15 seconds to do that, 14 seconds to do that, 13 seconds to do that. All right, that's kind of annoying, huh? I'll give you guys about 10 seconds to do that. And it's going away. And you guys can share that a little bit with everybody else. But what are we talking about this week? Well, we're finishing up the series on coaching through the fog. And what we're talking about tonight specifically is clients who are running on empty, because the reality is that you are going to potentially be coaching a lot of people. And here's the thing is that you'll find a lot of people who are overachievers, who are performance driven, who get a lot of different things done, but they don't have a whole lot of bandwidth and they don't have a whole lot left. And yes, they are still showing up, but they're running on empty. They're burnout. And that's the case of a lot of people. You might be a burnout person right now. Throw that in the chat. Are you a burnout person? Maybe this can be helpful for you. But it's actually quite common. It's actually quite normal. I wish it wasn't the norm, but you watch how people are kind of showing up in life in general. And it's a problem when you go into a gas station. And it used to be, do you guys remember when we were growing up and to get a soft drink, it would keep you going for a lot of the day, right? You could drink like a Coke or something like that, or a Dr. Pepper. Or if you were really crazy back in the day, you drank a Mountain Dew. Do you remember those days? And a Mountain Dew, if you drank a little bit of Mountain Dew, that would keep you up all night or something like that. But what's happened? Well, I think that people are actually like physically fatigued, exhausted, and that there's a problem in our culture when you go into a gas station now, go into the little food area. And it used to be that maybe for the people that, that wouldn't work, they would sell something, these little caffeine pills when we were growing up, that they would actually be at the checkout. And you had to be, I think, probably 16 or 18 years old before you could get one of those. I can't remember. But now when you go, you have a much smaller section for soft drinks. And then you see a really big a big section for energy drinks, whether that be Monster. I mean, there's so many of them now, you can't even keep up with it anymore. That's just showing us that in culture, burnout. And if you weren't burnout ahead of time, because they're like, okay, I've got to stay awake. I've got to stay functioning. I've got things that I've got to do. I've got to show up for my kids. Yes, I've worked all day. I adopted a power nap back before I went full time as a coach. And I hated that I had a commute and I would come home and then I would just pass out. So I got to where I could go take a nap during my 30-minute lunch break, so that I had that out of the way before I got home. That was my way of coping back in the day. And I still actually have a power nap as far as that's concerned. But we know something in culture is awry. We know something is wrong if we're seeing this happening everywhere. But what is burnout fog? Well, burnout fog happens when the system has been running too hard for too long. And clients aren't actually disconnected from their goals. They're disconnected from the energy required to move towards them. And this isn't emotional shutdown, and it's not a transition. It is full body weariness. So that's how we have to discern this a little bit differently. Because again, what we're learning is that sometimes symptomatically on a client, you might make the wrong judgment about what's going on. This is why we're doing this series, is because sometimes when we have new coaches come in and they're working with someone, they might assume that someone's just not interested in their goal, or they're not, or maybe they've got a belief system issue, or maybe they're just not following through for some kind of reason or whatever. And there's nothing worse than misjudging a client and then trying to appropriate a technique or do something in coaching that actually makes it much worse for them. And so sometimes what you'll see, if we're not too careful, what is actually full body weariness, you might assume that it's one of those other things. So that's why, again, we want to define this differently than the other types of fog. Burnout fog doesn't always come with a crash. Sometimes it just creeps in. And here's what I would say. High functioning clients are really, really good at masking it. And they can mask it all the way up till they are barely holding it together. And here's what I would say about those people, because I can remember a time in my life when I went through this. And my biggest concern, because I was performance driven, I was very goal focused. There was all of those things that made me really, really good at what I was doing. But I also had a lot of different things that were going on. For one, my wife was going through major chronic illness, and we had 2 small children, and I'm trying to juggle everything while still perform at a really high level. And the hardest thing for me at that time was being honest that I really didn't have it together, at least in here. I was still functioning and I was still doing it. But it really was not until I just was completely overwhelmed and undone by it. And I don't want to say it was too late. Like, I'm not trying to be all bleak or whatever, but it had really pushed me to that breaking point, that it's like, I need to actually be able to tell my boss, the people that I'm working with and everything else, that I don't know that I can continue to go at this level. And it's really hard because People who are experiencing this are amazing people. They are amazing parents. They are amazing workers. They show up at a really high level and they don't want to let anybody down. They're juggling a lot of different things. And so know this, that no one wants to be exposed as not having it together. And this is one of those things that really comes up for these kinds of people, is that really, actually, they're functioning at a very, very high level and they're doing a really, really good job. And in coaching, we've got to be able to recognize this thing so that we're beginning to hold space so that people can actually be real, talk about where they are at, and most importantly, that we can coach them towards health rather than increased overwhelm. So let's figure out, how do we actually spot burnout fog on our clients? What does it look like? Well, if the client says they want change but never has the energy to pursue it, listen to the things that they say. If they don't have the energy to pursue the change that they want, high percentage of chance that person's actually experiencing burnout fog. If everything feels like a lot, even things that they used to love, listen for the language, listen for what they're talking about. As my coach mentor, Philip Sandahl, used to say, feel what the weather is in the room because you'll feel it. If everything feels like a lot, even things that they used to love, that's burnout fog. If progress stalls, not from confusion, because remember, we're distinguishing that from that other fog, the other fogs that we're talking about. If they're not confused and progress is stalling, but it's actually fatigue that's keeping them from being able to move forward. If they speak in low energy, checked out language. You got to be really careful with this one, because what we talked about last week was emotionally checked out clients. What we can do to spot burnout fog is that we can actually look at a combination of these things to help us determine where they're at. And if they keep showing up, but their heart's no longer in it, that is a symptom of burnout fog. Or if you as a coach sense they are over functioning in life, but they are under resourced internally, that is burnout fog. Let me say hello to a couple of people saying hello to me really quick, just really quickly before we keep going. Who else do I need to say? From Myanmar? Okay, that's awesome. Dan said, I used to drink Mountain Dew. Betty joining us from Wisconsin. Okay, good. All right, let's jump back in. I swear I'm paying attention. I'm just saying hello to everybody. Also, if you want the slides, that's how you get them. So, how do you, let's keep going. That's how you spot burnout fog. What does it actually sound like? What is the kind of language that we are listening for amongst our clients? Well, if a client says, I'm going through the motions, but it's all flat, that is a symptom of burnout fog. I used to care so much, but now I just want a break. See, it's a little bit differently than being emotionally checked out. Sometimes with emotionally checked out clients, that first part sounds like that. I used to care so much. So sometimes when you'll see numbness, we're talking about emotionally checked out. But in this case, when the client qualifies it, so it's so important for them to be able to qualify it. I just want a break. That's someone who's talking about fatigue or exhaustion. I know what I should be doing. I just can't make myself do it. And that's what burnout people are doing already. Many cases, they're forcing themselves to go past the limit and go beyond and overextend themselves already. I'm tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. So if your clients even start talking about that they can't get enough rest, that they are constantly exhausted, that's burnout. That's burnout fog. But there's some mistakes that coaches make, again, because they're not identifying exactly what is in front of them. And so what we want to do is I'm going to give you some questions that you can ask to help your clients in burnout fog. But let's talk about the mistakes that coaches make before that. The biggest mistake coaches make with people who are experiencing burnout fog is to begin prescribing strategy to them. And that's not really what they need. It's not a strategy problem. So don't coach from motivation when the issue is actually exhaustion. And I know that's going to be hard for some of you who like to cheerlead and you want to make people feel better and everything else, particularly you movers like me. That was one of those things that it's kind of like, okay, would this help someone if we get them moving? No, not if exhaustion is actually an issue. By the way, if you've not taken our CFQ assessment, coaching frequency assessment, then I would highly encourage you to do that. And then you can find out what your strengths are, as well as some of the shadow sides of them. Let's keep going though. Burnout clients don't actually need reactivation. What do they need? Restoration. So trying to goal set with someone whose tank is empty creates shame. It does not create movement with the client. So here's your coaching approach to transition fog. How would you go about it, and what kind of questions would you ask? Actually, I don't know why it says transition fog. We are not talking about transition. We are talking about burnout fog. Forgive me. Somehow we didn't fix that slide. So what do you do if you are coaching someone who's actually in burnout? What does that sound like? Again, let me just cross this out. It'll make me feel better because I don't like something that looks wrong. We're going to say burnout. There we go. Burnout. All right. Now we got it correct. Now let's do it. Well, coaching approach to burnout fog. What do you do? Well, burnout fog isn't solved by pushing through. It's coached by pulling back. So so you want to help them define what's draining them, even if everything really looks good on paper. Help them build margin first before you start adding things. And before you start trying to help the client create momentum, the big thing that they're going to have to create. I mean, let's think about it. What do you have on the side of a piece of paper? Well, you can put a lot of things on here, but a piece of paper, really, what does it always have? It always has margin. It has a left margin, and it usually has a little bit smaller right margin. And what does that allow you to do? If you've ever seen a page that is written in all the way with the notes, that creates anxiety, if you've ever noticed. So in that exact same way, what is our role is that we're going to have to help them create some space. You know what that might mean? It might mean removing some things in order to be able to say yes to some other things. So help them subtract before you suggest anything new. Help them shift from outcome-based coaching to energy-based presence. And help them restore agency by helping them say no without the guilt. And that's going to be a really big one because most of what actually pushes people to perform at a really high level is that they feel like they're going to disappoint someone. And sometimes it's about them disappointing themselves. But in a workplace, the status, people, their certain status of what people think about them, what their family thinks about them, or maybe what their family needs from them. And there's a lot of guilt that's involved in that. So I see this especially with women who are trying to pursue something. Maybe they're working, maybe they're trying to pursue their calling in life or something like that. And while they're over here, they feel guilty because they feel like what's over here, my family and everything, is not getting the best of me. And so they feel guilt and shame. And then if they're over here, though, with their family and they don't feel like they're giving their work the best, then they feel guilt and shame about that. So it's an interesting thing is that they feel torn because they need to say no somewhere. And that makes them feel terrible because what is it doing? It makes them feel like they're settling and that someone is having to bite the bullet because I can't produce and I can't perform. So this is going to be something that you're going to have to coach people through. So here's some key coaching questions. And forgive me, I don't know why we didn't fix that, but I'll fix that again really quickly for everybody. Maybe we'll fix the slides online so that it says burnout. But key coaching questions. What are you forcing that used to feel natural? What do we want? What are we saying in that? We want stuff that seems to just flow out of the heart. And here's the thing that I'll say. is that sometimes people, not out of a lot of effort, when there's a strain to get things done, a lot of times when you have life work balance, when you are living in flow, when you actually have things kind of worked out, you'll notice that you're able to get an extraordinary amount of work done in a short amount of time, and it doesn't feel exhausting. This is what we're talking about. Where have you overcommitted out of obligation, or you've overcommitted out of habit? What are you doing because it worked before, even though it's not working now? What parts of your day are taking more than they're giving? This is one of those things to start for them to begin to expose in their life of what are the things that are sucking them dry. What are the mental and emotional drainers that are actually happening in their life? They need to be aware of those things because they're not all equal. You know, what can really help people is if they're able to live more in their day of the things that are actually life giving. And I know sometimes people are going to have administrative work, they're going to have tasks, and they're going to have things that they really do not want to do that they have to do. But it does not mean that they cannot review their life and how do they get rid of some of the things that are on their plate or adjust their schedule. I mean, there's a lot of different kinds of things that they could do to start creating that margin and to start doing work that's actually life giving. What would it look like to protect your energy like it mattered? That's a great question. So here's a final thought. Burnout is not about weakness. It's the body's best last way of asking for what it needed all along. Burnout is actually, if you hit burnout, well, you've actually gone a little bit too far. But at least the body is kicking in and saying, no more. We can't do any more. We can't go any farther than this. And again, I'll say this is that clients and people who are wired like this are going to hide it for as long as they can hide it. So coaching burnout isn't about reigniting the fire. It's about clearing space so it can catch again on their terms and in their time. If you want the slides, here's how you get them. Text the word slides to 833-258-7547, and we'll actually fix those titles. Maybe we'll get them fixed and re-upload the slides so that they don't say the wrong thing at the top of them. Hey, for those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, let me tell you a couple of options that you have right now. One is our self-paced option, which is our 7 core modules self-paced course that has optional live Tuesday night coach training. These are the course sessions. We have 7 course sessions that are that also include some weeks that are only live coaching practice with feedback, as well as live Q&As. That's what we do every week on Tuesday nights. And it's 30 hours of training. There are live weekly calls that also include Q&As and some weeks that are just role playing. You're also going to have the opportunity to connect with other coaches who are part of the program. That way you have homework buddies, you have accountability partners, and all those things so you're not doing things on your own. We also have an editable and brandable welcome pack because you're going to need that as part of your onboarding with clients. It includes your coaching agreement, all the documents that you need to welcome a client aboard. It also allows you to completely change the color scheme, the font. You can change the images or whatever. What we wanted to do is save you hundreds of dollars and at least 100 hours of development on that. You're also going to get the coaching tool starter pack. So we give you 6 coaching tools that you can use with your clients. There's going to be hundreds of question samples. You're going to get a free listing on our Life Coach directory that is ranked at the top of Google called lifecoachmatch.com. And obviously you're going to get a certificate. And the cost on this, it's valued at 3.5. Well, I should say, I was about to say $3.5 thousand, $3,500. But the cost is only $195. That way you can have coaching mastery, you can have credibility, you can live into your purpose, and you can begin to start living into freedom without having a bunch of debt. Now, we also have an opportunity this coming weekend with our 3-day boot camp. starts June 20th, which is Friday night. So we'll have one session on Friday. We'll have all day Saturday, all day Sunday. Now, it's still the 7 core modules of our life coach certification course. Difference is that we do it live on schedule. And what we do is at the end of every one of those sessions, we have live Q&As, and we have some time where we're able to do coaching role playing so that you're able to see coaching demos and everything like that. What is included? Well, everything that is actually included in the life coach certification course is included. Everything that I talked about with the onboarding documents, the coaching tool starter kit, question samples, your life coach certification certificate. You're also going to get access to the self-paced course, as well as bonus live Tuesday night coach training. Because I know sometimes over the weekend, you're like, oh, I wish I had somebody to go to. I wish I had homework buddies. I wish I had accountability in my life. I wish I could come back and review some of this stuff. So you'll be able to review it. You can also join us on Tuesdays and ask your questions. Also, join us for practice sessions in the future as well. Because it is a weekend where we pack everything in, the cost is only $295. Now, that is everything that's included. That is training, that is certification, that is the entire weekend, and also includes your continuing education that is available for you every week. Only $295. The links to these programs are inside of the description of this video. For those of you who already have your basic credential out of the way, advanced skills training is just a couple of weeks away. It's June 27th and 28th. It is also live and online over Zoom as well. So we go Friday night and we go all day Saturday. There is not any training on Sunday. And what you can expect is it is a live over 10-hour online interactive training event where we go to the source of belief systems, and you'll learn a strategy for how you can help your clients overcome limits and maximize their potential. And we're talking about sticking places like imposter syndrome, bad money beliefs, perfectionism, self-sabotage, lies, irrational fears, all of these things that we cover. Now, what's really normal is that we see our coaches have significant personal breakthroughs over the course of these weekends as well. What are you going to learn in terms of the skills? Well, we're going to go way beyond what we do in the life coach certification course to help you pinpoint a client's limiting beliefs. We're going to introduce you to the master system, and you're going to be able to know where beliefs originate, where they're formed, and then how to go after them with the tools that we give you. You're going to help your clients eliminate procrastination, conquer irrational fears, grow in self-worth. You're going to learn a formula to unlock maximum potential in your clients. And you're also going to learn brain hacks. Like if I could help you take some of the process, speed it up, that's what I want to give you in the course of this weekend. That helps you remove barriers with your clients and helps them eliminate self-sabotaging systems. There's 4 core topics over the course of the weekend. We start off on Friday night talking about brain science. We're really looking at neuroscience, how beliefs are formed, how they actually alter DNA, and scientifically, how we can change them. We're also going to introduce you to the breakthrough triad. That is the master system. Those 3 things that work together that form beliefs and actually continue to support them. We're also going to show you how to help your clients live in peak performance. It's harnessing the power of state and how to live and remain in peak performance. And then you're also going to learn the formula for exponential results, how to take massive action and unlock unlimited potential, a lifetime of change, and a lifetime of results. What you're going to get is the 10-hour live training that will go to any device. You're also going to walk away with breakthrough tools, because I say what happens after the event is more important than what happened during the event. And this is going to be about 40 some odd pages of tools. We're going to show you how to utilize them over the course of the weekend. And so you're going to walk away with that. You're also going to earn your CPC credential. That's the distinction of being a credentialed certified professional coach. That is going to obviously increase your proficiency and your marketability. The cost is only $247 if you'd like to be a part of that. And that link is also in the description of this video. All right, who else do I need to say hello to really quick? All right, cool. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. We're going to put this thing on replay. So don't forget to get enrolled. You got a couple of days before all of these things happen. Um, Particularly for boot camp this weekend, I would jump on that while you're thinking about it. The cost again is only $295, and you can knock all of your training out in a single weekend. All right, well, let's do this thing, folks. We're going to get this thing put on replay. I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week and take care.